Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Brhat Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Sukadev Goswami said, after thus instructing his father and mother, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna remained silent. In their presence, by his internal energy, he then transformed himself into a small human child. In other words, he transformed himself into his original form, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 6, Sambhavamya Atma Mayaya. Whatever is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is done by his spiritual energy. Nothing is forced upon him by the material energy. This is the difference between the Lord and an ordinary living being. The Vedas say, Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shruyate Svabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Satasvatara Upanishad 6.8. It is natural for the Lord to be untinged by material qualities. And because everything is perfectly present in his spiritual energy, as soon as he desires something, it is immediately done. The Lord is not a Prakrita Shishu, a child of this world, but by his personal energy he appeared like one. Ordinary people may have difficulty accepting the Supreme Controller, God, as a human being because they forget that he can do everything by spiritual energy. Atma Mayaya. Non-believers say, how can the Supreme Controller descend as an ordinary being? This sort of thinking is materialistic. Srila Jiva Goswami says that unless we accept the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as inconceivable, beyond the conceptions of our words and mind, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord. Those who doubt that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can come as a human being and turn himself into a human child are fools who think that Krishna's body is material, that he is born and he therefore also dies. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 4th chapter, verses 28 and 29, there is a description of Krishna's leaving his body. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Sukadev Goswami, when all the members of the Yadu dynasty met their end, Krishna also put an end to himself, and the only member who remained alive was Uddhava. How was this possible? Unquote. Sukadev Goswami answered that Krishna, by his own energy, destroyed the entire family, and then thought of making his own body disappear. In this connection, Sukadev Goswami described how the Lord gave up his body. But this was not the destruction of Krishna's body. Rather, it was the disappearance of the Supreme Lord by his personal energy. Actually, the Lord does not give up his body, which is eternal, But as he can change his body from the form of Vishnu to that of an ordinary human child, he can change his body to any form he likes. This does not mean that he gives up his body. By spiritual energy, the Lord can appear in a body made of wood or stone. He can change his body into anything because everything is his energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shruyate. As clearly said in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 4, Bina Prakriti Astada. The material elements are separated energies of the Lord. If he transforms himself into the Archa Murti, the worshipable deity, which we see as stone or wood, he is still Krishna. Therefore the Shastra warns, Archye Vishnu Sila Dir Guru Shunara Matihi. One who thinks that the worshipable deity in the temple is made of wood or stone, one who sees a Vaishnava Guru as an ordinary human being, or one who materially conceives of a Vaishnava as belonging to a particular caste, is Naraki, a resident of hell. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear before us in many forms as he likes. But we must know the true facts. Janma karma chama divyam evam yo viti tatvataha. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 9. By following the instructions of Sadhu, Guru and Shastra, the saintly persons, the spiritual master, and the authoritative scriptures, one can understand Krishna, and then one makes his life successful by returning home, back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Akripa Sindhubhya Evacha Apatitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In regard to Lord Krishna's appearance within the womb of Devaki, three significant personalities played a part. They're not in any respective order of importance, but it's like a simultaneous part that is played. Lord Brahma played a part because he went to the ocean of milk and requested the Supreme Personality of Godhead to appear when he was summoned, at least requested by the demigods. Another part that was played by Lord Balaram, which is the first expansion of Krishna. And then similarly, Yogamaya appeared as the daughter of Mother Yasoda, and she also played a part prior to the appearance of Krishna. So Brahma represents the Jiva Tattva, Balaram represents the Vishnu Tattva, and Yogamaya represents what is called the Shakti Tattva. Balaram and Brahma also simultaneously represent the Guru Tattva. Now, the Lord decided to, you could say in one sense, prior to this particular verse, the Lord Himself decided in His own consciousness to leave the residence of Vasudeva and Devaki from the prison house of Kamsa. So this is the first feature of His deciding to leave, where the Lord transformed into a little child. Now, this may be ordinarily seen by people. You can put this higher, especially in India. They may quote this particular verse or pastime that Krishna comes from Vishnu or Narayan. Famous, right? Yes. Yeah. Because of this particular group of verses, like that, and specifically today's verse where Vishnu is deciding to transform into a little child. It is not exactly as it seems in this particular verse, because there are prior verses in chapter 1 and 2 and verses to come in chapter 3 and 4. At least here. So a simple example can be given. And we, as practicing devotees, or to try to become devotees, or whatever it's worth, for myself personally, we are aware that Krishna is the Adi Purusha, and from him there's expansions and incarnations up to the point of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shirodakshaya Vishnu, and so forth. We are fully aware of that. Because why we are aware of that is because we have, to some extent, if not fully, have assimilated the first canto up to the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then comes this 10th canto. So a simple example can be given to illustrate that Krishna actually does not come from Vishnu, but as we know from the first 3 cantos, that actually Vishnu or Narayan comes from Krishna. So many of the common persons, specifically who may belong to like Hinduism, who also follow the Vedas, and also feel very much part of us, or they feel we are very much part of them. Either way, it's a mutual dependence. They do not know the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the first 3 that describes this in detail. So when somebody asks me a question, then I give an analogy which sort of makes some sense of it. The chief executive officer of the material creation is Shirodakshahi Vishnu. First you get Mahavishnu, then you get Gabudakshahi Vishnu, and then you get Shirodakshahi Vishnu. So Shirodakshahi Vishnu is within Gabudakshahi Vishnu. And Gabudakshahi Vishnu is within Mahavishnu. See? But there are many Gabudakshahi Vishnus, and there's Shirodakshahi Vishnu is Adantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That means Shirodakshahi Vishnu is within each atom and in between each atom, and is also pervading everywhere. So that's the function of the Supersoul, as well as the function of the Supersoul knowing everything. So therefore, naturally, Shirodakshayi Vishnu is the Supersoul. And the modern language term, the Chief Executive Officer. So now, this particular Vishnu mentioned in this verse is actually that same Shirodakshayi Vishnu. And through the agency of the CEO, all incarnations come through into this material world. So the example can be given if the enjoyer of the profits of a company is living in Miami, in Florida. And the enjoyer of the profits of the company, he plays golf the whole day. He's not in his factory or corporation, which he has in Beijing or Shanghai. So the person who runs the factory or corporation in Beijing or Shanghai, and the person who's known as the boss, like that. And sometimes in inverted commas is known as the surrogate owner. He's not really the owner, but everyone knows him as the boss, like that. So he is called the Chief Executive Officer, like that. So he makes everything happen. He has his middle management, upper management, and management on the floor of the corporation and factory that produces things. So, he through his management and administration people, he manages everything. Yeah. And he's there all the time. Yeah. So when a VIP, a very important person, comes into the corporation and so forth, that person is sent like a chauffeur-driven car to the airport to bring him into the establishment or corporation. He is given special treatment. But the actual owner or the boss, he does not work. The profits are just sent to him for him to enjoy, like playing golf the whole day in Miami. So when he wants to go to Beijing or Shanghai, to enter into his factory or corporation, who does he contact? He contacts the CEO. And he says, I'm coming. Like that. So when the CEO knows that his actual boss is coming, who does not work but enjoys all day, all night, so he makes some special arrangements. He tells the, reception lady, I always liked tulips. Now you just put pink roses. And then should we arrange a car? She asks. No, I will personally go with my vehicle and receive this person. So it's not just a VIP, he's a VVIP. He's a very, very important person. So through the agency of the CEO that receives the actual enjoyer of the profits, he enters into the corporation, right? Or the factory. Like that. And he's more magnanimous, how are you? Give them some extra salary, give them some feast, that type of thing. And the CEO just listens, like that. Give them a bonus, that type of thing. So similarly, Krishna is not the CEO, but an expansion of Krishna as the CEO. And Krishna himself simply enjoys. So when he wants to enter into this material world and manifest his lila or pastimes, Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. So when he wants to manifest his lila or pastimes, then he enters through the agency of the CEO, which is non-different from him at the same time different. So in the same way, it may appear that Krishna is being transformed into a little baby from Vishnu, but actually he is coming through Vishnu as a little baby, and therefore Prabhupada specifically makes the extra point in brackets in the translation. This baby is Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swami, the full personality of Godhead. He's not just Bhagavan as Vishnu, but he's Swayam Bhagavan. Prabhupada makes it very, very, very clear. Now, Krishna as a son of Devaki and as the son of Yasoda is not meant to instruct the mother. But we see that here Prabhupada says in the purport and in the translation that Vishnu has instructed Devaki and Vasudeva. So they could accept instruction from the Supreme Lord, but they won't accept instruction from their son. So after Vishnu instructed as a service on behalf of Krishna, then Krishna appears as the son. Yeah. But it should be noted that Vasudeva and Devaki would be separated from Krishna when he was being carried to Nanda Gokula, the residence of Nanda Maharaj. And when Krishna is carried to the residence of Nanda Maharaj in Nanda Gokula, on the way his consciousness changes. On the way his consciousness changes. Because he cannot take that vestige of coming from Vishnu, who have formally instructed Devaki and Vasudeva, because he can never ever dare to instruct Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, because he is eternally the son of Nanda and Yasoda. So the Lord personally instructed Vasudeva and Devaki in the form of Vishnu that they should always remember him as their son and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These verses are to come. This is 46, or prior to this. This happened in 45. Yeah. So why Vishnu mentioned that to them is because they have to be feeling still connected to Krishna and not to Vishnu. Like that. So after 11 years, that same Krishna, not Vishnu, returns back to Mathura, has their son. And therefore there's no question of separation, because they followed the instruction of Vishnu to always remember that he is with them as their son, although he's leaving to Nanda Gokula. Now, at the same time, Srila Prabhupada have us understand that the son or the baby that appeared in this particular verse did not really leave Vasudeva and Devaki. They did not really leave in terms of the consciousness of Vasudeva and Devaki. So Srila Prabhupada has us understand in verses to come in this particular chapter also, that Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, they are very intimate friends. And similarly, Yasoda and Devaki are similarly intimate. And the intimacy in terms of the consciousness is that they are one soul in two forms. Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva are one soul in two separate forms. And similarly, Yasoda and Devaki are one soul in two separate forms. Like that. And Srila Prabhupada said, although their names are different, they are practically non-different personalities. Like that. The only difference is that Devaki was able to understand that the baby is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Yasoda is not able to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now here is a sort of contradiction that may appear that something's material from the material platform. If you know that Krishna is God, then you have more knowledge. But if you don't know that Krishna is God, then you have no gyan, you have no knowledge. But yet it is higher. Yet Yasoda is higher. Yeah. So technically, Krishna consciousness is a philosophy masquerading, at least is love masquerading as philosophy. The philosophy is really not necessary in the ultimate sense of Krishna Prema. Because, Mother Yasoda is not a philosopher. Radharani is not a philosopher. The cowherd boys are not philosophers. The gopis are not philosophers. So if Krishna Prem is imbued with knowledge still, it is called Jnana Misra Bhakti. It is still tinged from still understanding. But love for Krishna is beyond understanding. And Srila Prabhupada says that Yasoda was such an advanced devotee that she never regarded Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but simply loved Krishna as a very dear own child. In fact, if somebody comes into the household of Nanda Maharaj and tells Mother Yasoda, your child, he's the source of Narayan and Vishnu, like that, she'll immediately take a broomstick and hit you on the head and tell you to get out of the house. Like that. What? My baby, my Krishna, he's the Supreme Lord. Are you gone crazy? Are you gone mad? This boy who simply cries when he's hungry for food, You're telling me that He's the Supreme Lord? So she simply wants to boot you out. See? Immediately, no hesitation. Not that maybe He is, I have some doubt. No, immediately. She's not convinced. It's naturally that Krishna is eternally her son. So therefore, how Krishna becomes the Supreme Lord to Devaki and simultaneously is the son, is that Mother Yasoda is Madhurya Purna. She's full and complete in the sweetness of simply loving Krishna and serving Krishna as a son. So therefore another name for Krishna is Yasoda Dulal. Dulal means, the closest English word is darling. The darling of Mother Yasoda Dulal. This is not in relation to Devaki. But how is it that Yasoda and Devaki are one soul, but in two different features or forms? The sweetness of the form of Mother Yasoda expands into Mathura Dwarka in the form of Devaki. And therefore she is Aishwarya Purna, the opulent form of the mother of Krishna. And therefore the opulent form can be called the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So similarly, the sweetness form of Nanda Maharaj, which is Madhurya, expands into Mathura Dwarka in the form of Vasudev. Vasudev. And therefore he is the Aishwarya Purna, the opulent form of Nanda Maharaj. So therefore they are practically non-different personalities. One soul in two different features to give pleasure to the Lord. You have any comments or questions?